Before we can really understand the culture and even the economics of a free society, I believe it's important to begin with an analysis of human nature, and specifically in the emotional aspects of humans, the fact that we have fear and we become afraid of certain things. So if you look at historically in the primitive world, men were escaping predators. We had fear to help us survive from tigers, from cheetahs. Um, but as we came together, as we created civilization, and we got closer together, those threats and predators fell by the wayside. No longer are we walking down the street afraid that a tiger is going to jump out of nowhere and attack us. But we still are afraid. And I think a main reason that we have this fear is one, due to ignorance, and two, to the knowledge that we can be attacked, not by predators and animals, but by other people. So we have this threat of foreign invaders or even bad actors in society. And this threat is what justifies the government today. We have wars going on because we're lied and told that if we don't attack them, they'll attack us. And this is what breeds statism. This is what breeds collectivism. So when we're confronted with these threats, on one hand, it's important for us to do our due diligence and realize who benefits from our perceived fears, who benefits from our forced collectivism. And obviously, it's the state. And this forced collectivism is it's what allows the state to wage wars on other nations, not even nations, on a virus, on poverty, on a disease. So I think if we really want to be free and live in a free society, one of the first things that need to be understood is fear, and that we're afraid. And I think once you recognize what your perceived fears are, then you can begin to think differently. And I think in a free society where we have actual free cities, then we won't have the coercive nation state. And when you don't have a coercive nation state, you don't have a nation state that's making money off a military industrial complex. You don't have a nation state that socializes money, creates a Federal Reserve and central bank to make it easier to finance wars. You don't have these institutions existing in this type of society. So I think that's why freedom, in the truest sense, cures a lot of these mal issues that we're experiencing today. Just think that in the 21st century, the century of central banking, the century of democracy, the 20th century, we had the most amount of wars, the most amount of lives lost due to wars. Wars at the mass scale, the biggest scale. I don't think this is an inevitable aspect. I think within human nature, you have both the ability to conquer and cooperate. And it's kind of like whatever incentive structure you have externally to you will ultimately bring that part of human beings out of them. To take a very egregious example, if you look at the World War II concentration camps, the banality of evil, you have people who are willing to conform themselves to survive, even if that means turning on their friends. due to this perceived fear. And in those cases, the fear was very real. Tortures and executions were the consequence. But today, as long as we don't have those in play as a factor, then I think we have a real opportunity to choose whether we're going to be free or whether we're going to be submissive and obedient. And as long as you're submissive and obedient, you can't be free. And to the extent that we have a form of monetary servitude and we still have the nation state, then we're not entirely free. If you have conscription, then you have legalized kidnapping. If you have taxation, then you have legalized theft. If you have inflation, you have legalized plunder. But we don't have completely a spiritual plunder. We still have the choice to choose what we value. And while we have this choice, we can choose to live in a better world. But we have to create it. And it begins with each one of us in our spirit. And that's the spirit of freedom. The spirit of freedom begins with first the desire, and second, the knowledge, the truth, the information needed to make the appropriate decisions. I don't think it has anything to do with, violence or a violent overthrow revolution a la French Revolutionary period. I think actually freedom is a peaceful thing. Actually, it's recognizing cause and effect in society. And that's why economics is so foundational, because it helps you understand this. But before we understand economics, we need to understand culture, and we need to understand human nature. And that the choice is ultimately between fear and freedom. So be free.